The old man will. The old man will. The old man will. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality was stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to instead. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Builds. We got a great show for you today, man. We're going to get into the Wardenclyffe a little bit. We're also going to be talking AC flybacks and what the understanding between the two is. And I put out a question out there: are they equal? And well, not exactly. And we'll get into that a little bit. I know a lot of people have some opinions on this, and I'm looking over some of the stuff in the chat here. I think it's very interesting, man, this whole question on this. And it has to do semi with what we learned in a lot of different processes on how to build energy and see how it goes. So just say hi, everybody out there. GL, I hear you, man. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff associated with this tower, man, that isn't exactly what you would think it was. And there's a very specific reason Tesla built it. And if you're thinking Great Pyramid, you're right. But there's more to it than that. And see, everybody's here, man. You guys are awesome. All right. Let's get on to this a little bit. So, all right. Let's understand this a little bit. So, we all deal with the anode cathode effect, and we're all pretty familiar with it at this point if you've watched the show. And you'll understand 2 points in an AC flyback. So, let's just go over an AC flyback, and there's two different ways to run this thing. I think traditionally a lot of people only believe in one. And it's written in there as an AC flyback. Let's just make sure we get that clear, and there's a reason for that. Okay, so first way to run it, very simple. Put in a DC power source, wrap it on one side with about 7 turns. On the other side, you have a lot more turns separated by different levels. It goes from one to the next, one to the next. It's equal on both sides, top and bottom. And that's a traditional understanding of an AC flyback. Why do they call it AC flyback? Well, this is something that not a lot of people really understand. It's not going to a super high voltage. It's not what it does. It gets barely activated where it can go into maybe 900 volts or so where it can leave the wire. So why did they call it AC? It's the fluctuation between the positive and negative. Because they're both equal, it means that the positive and negative will continuously switch, which means it will create an AC voltage. That is why they call it an AC flyback. Is it a pure AC, though? And the answer is no. It's more of a dirty AC when it creates it. You'll have to go over there and you'll have to rectify it and rectify it back. Now, the other way to run this is you take a Tesla coil at a very high frequency. You run it in through the main part of the coil, which is all the windings that are separated, right? Where you came out of the coil last time, you're going to go into it this time. You go over to the other side and you wrap that side with a thicker wire. Now, many of you know this is a transformer. It will take the voltage that is very high in frequency and bring it down to the other side and bring it out at an AC. Again, going to have to be rectified twice. Now that we understand that, there's two different methods in the way that it works. Now, the difference between this and, say, a Tesla coil that is bipolar is one thing. It's the core. Once you remove the core, you no longer get a high magnetic value. You always will get in an open core system, you will get a very minimum magnetic value, which means it's very poor. That goes for any coil that does not have a core. Now, when we get to the Wardenclyffe Tower, what do we have? We have an energy accumulator at the top. That's what it does. Could you say that this whole thing was a transmitter? You can make it into a transmitter. That's not off the table. But what was it intended for? It's a high voltage accumulator. So it accumulates energy. Now, if you look up Tesla's patent on radiant energy, what does it do? It tells you exactly how to convert it back using plates. Now, most people see these as Tesla coils. They're not. They are bifilar coils. And what they do is they have one coil, second coil, and in the center you have a plate. That plate itself accumulates the energy in between, and it does it by using the dielectric that's created in between the two coils. One side goes to the ground, okay? But there's a connection here that you're not seeing. And let me fill you in on the connection. Let's bring in our AC flyback. You say, man, that doesn't make any sense. There's no AC flyback on the Wardenclyffe at all. And I do understand that, okay? And there's not. What's the AC flyback in the system then? What's the Earth? A lot of people don't account for that, but that's what it is. So let's look at this again. We have a molten core that's rotating that is what? Nickel iron? And you get a magnetic value. You get up into the atmosphere, you have high voltage potential. You have now just created a flyback. Why isn't an AC flyback not a DC flyback? You say, okay, DC flyback would be magnetic on the bottom, okay, because we know how that's wrapped. On the top, you get high voltage potential. So why isn't an AC flyback not the DC? And it's a very particular reason. It's the oscillation that goes back and forth. The DC flyback does not allow for that oscillation because of the way it's diode. And I say a diode in this way. We know it's a magnetic core. We know that it's wrapped with film. We know that there's one wrap on it. And it cannot create enough magnetism to go the opposite way. Therefore, it's a one-way diode, also a capacitor in that fashion. It's a high voltage capacitor. Therefore, the DC flyback would be the wrong terminology. An AC flyback would be a bounce back and forth. So it would go up to the atmosphere and then back to the core. You see, you don't need the two wires. Because you are in a spherical shape, you do not need the two wires. It automatically creates the field based on the geometry of the Earth itself. Now, let's look at this in the correct electrical terms. When you have high voltage potential at the top, you can accumulate the energy into it, but you're also going to pull the magnetic value from the ground. It'll oscillate back and forth. It will produce an AC wave in between two plates, and then in the dielectric is where you're going to get your AC. This is the same as how it works on your power lines. Just understand there's a different way to pull it out. Is the AC flyback the Wardenclyffe Tower? No, obviously it's not. The Earth itself is your AC flyback. The Wardenclyffe Tower is how you extract the energy based on Tesla's patent on radiant energy. Now that we know that, let's connect it to the Great Pyramid. It has the same values. Just lately, I put out a short that shows a pyramid, and it shows a tube going to the bottom. It shows you the directional flow of energy. In through the top, you're going to pull in the atmosphere. You're going to pull it right down to the center on the top of the pyramid. It's going to go straight down, and it's going to go into all the little tube things you see under the Great Pyramid they just discovered. And it's going to go into the water table. As it goes into the water table, it's going to create the AC effect again through the Earth as an AC flyback. Now it's going to oscillate back and forth. You see how this works. I discovered this while doing all the experiments on the RAV. And then when we made our geometry peanut coil, it made it very clear what was going on. When it started putting out AC signals from it, you had to stop and look and see why. What was going on? Where was the primary at? Where was the secondary at? And why was it going back and forth in oscillation? It was going back and forth in oscillation because it didn't have a true ground to it. Each side was a voltage potential. There was no ground to it, so it would bounce the signal back and forth, back and forth. When it did that, it created true AC. This has been a problem that we've run into every time we look at stuff on the oscilloscope. It's not telling the true story of what's going on. It's a fluctuation back and forth, and we're told that in AC lines all the time. That you look at an oscilloscope and it gives you a vector direction for the energy to go. That's a problem because it's telling you incorrect information. It should be an oscillation between 2 points, back and forth, back and forth. It's not. It's going one way. That's not correct. That's not the correct to the way the energy is flowing. The energy is going like this, an oscillation in the coil. Then it goes out. Now, knowing that, what does that mean? It means that you are in direct contact with the energy fields of the Earth in order to pull them in because they are in radiant energy, just like Tesla told you. The Wardenclyffe Tower exposes a simple fact. Everywhere around us, we are in a radiant energy field. Therefore, in order to capture that potential, you can see exactly how to do it. What does that open everything up for? It's going to change equations in physics. Here's what I mean. When you look at Faraday and how he built things and how he understood things, then you look at Maxwell and how he wrote the equation. Maxwell wrote them wrong. Why? Because if we have radiant energy all around us, it was always there. Therefore, you must have a radiant potential in your equation. There is no radiant potential in the equation. There's also a frequency. And there's also entropy. Now, if you add those into the equation, what happens to the equation? It fundamentally changes. Why? What is the big significance of it fundamentally changing? Why would those things make sense? Why would it work in the system? Well, as you heard me say many times, that if you take a DC system and you basically change the frequency in it, you change the frequency higher, the amperage goes lower, the voltage goes higher. You change the frequency lower, the magnetism gets higher, but the voltage gets lower. It also has a heat difference. Anytime you make things in amps, they create more heat. When you put things in voltage, they're colder. You're immediately playing with the entropy in the system. When you add those things in, you can start to understand on which scale you can pull 0 point from. Just understand this. When you take that tower and you pull the energy from the atmosphere itself, you are directly doing 0 point energy. You are pulling in the energy of the atmosphere itself into the system in order to pull it out. You are taking advantage of the oscillation between the atmosphere and the ground. Both are required in order to do this. But does that mean that you need the tower all the time? No. You need the voltage potentials to be working the same way. And you say, well, why is that? I don't understand. Why would I not need the tower? That seems like such an essential part of it, right? Not necessarily. The tower itself is not touching the magnetic field below. It may be sitting up in the high voltage potential, but it's not touching the top of the world. It's not touching, your ozone layer. What is it? It's a screwdriver in the middle of a spark gap. It's what connects both. Think about that for a minute. That means in any UFO experiment, as long as you understood that you had an anode and cathode effect and that you could directly pull the atmospheric energy into the craft, you can create an anti-gravity field. Now, all of these things come from a simple understanding, but it also requires you to change the fundamental equation of what energy is. It is not magnets equal a magnetic coil. They're not equal. They're just not. I hear it a lot of time. People think you can create a magnet and change the atmosphere itself in order to get it to go anti-gravity, and it's not possible. Why? Because you didn't adhere to the rest of the rules. When you take a magnet, you have to understand what a magnet is. A magnet is a time lock. And here's what I mean. If you understand the radiant value, you understand entropy, you understood your amps and you understood your volts, and you understood your frequency, and you put them all together. You have now locked that into a magnet as a moment in time. That's what it is. Everything that you do to it will revert back to it as a moment in time. You could spin it, add potential to it, but when you stop the spinning, it reverts back to that same moment in time. A fluctuating magnetic coil does not work in that way. Magnetic coil has direct potential to it immediately. So let's take a magnet. If I rotate a magnet, I'm going to add things to it. I'm going to add a rotational value to it. When I add a rotational value to it, I'm adding a signal on top of the signal that's already created, that's already set in stone. What happens to that? It works against the magnet and it'll still create a field. As we all know, rotate a magnet, you get a field that comes out, and the amount of energy lessens as the further it goes. The amount of heat stays in the center, and it gets colder, colder, and colder. A magnet has a set value. Therefore, its potential in an environment is very low. Take a magnetic coil as a difference. You do not have a set value on your frequency. You do not have a set value on your radiant. You do not have a set value on your entropy. You have no set value for your amperage. You put those things in and you create those in a system, your potential energy is much higher. You can go wherever you want with it as long as you understand how those things work together to create the energy you're in. Put more radiant energy into it, you create more of a field that's like the earth that when you're sitting in, now you're able to be in the same type of energy that communicates with each other. Therefore, it'll pull in more energy. It'll do it through entropy. Where in a closed DC system, in that same wire potential, you're going to change the frequency and amperage and give it a value that's hotter or colder in entropy. How does that work? Well, in the coil itself, you can create scalar. In the magnet, you cannot. That's one of the biggest differences. You're activating a field that works in the potential of the earth while you're creating your coil. In a magnet, you cannot. Now, that's a lot to take in, but there's more. So, we want to be able to create something that works with the earth. So let's understand this a little bit differently. Even if I take a magnet and rotate it, the best I'm going to get is the value of the actual weight of it. And as it spins, what is it going to do? It's going to stabilize inside the field. It's going to move how it wants to move, not how you want to move it. As soon as you try to move it, the force of the energy that surrounds it will stop you from doing so. You've all seen the experiment. Let's take a wheel and let's rotate it very fast. Let's move it, okay, up. But are you moving it really? The answer is no. It's moving itself up. And it's creating a space where it stabilizes itself, where it wants to be. It is in control. You are not. Now it moves. You could be as big as you want to be, a bodybuilder or what. If it wants to move, it's moving. You're not changing that. What is that? It's stabilization in nature. What do you get out of the energy field? Well, any rotating magnetic field creates a ground. You say, well, why does it create a ground? I don't understand. Because the magnetic rotating field of the Earth creates a ground for you. Therefore, to create a temporary ground, you need rotating magnets in order to create that. You now have a temporary ground. It's not going to change the field around you. You're going to have to do that on your own. You're going to have to pull radiant value out of a coil in order to do it. So, how do you do that? You have to layer it. You see, the understanding of layering is completely lost in physics because they don't understand how you would get a structured plasma. So let's look at it. And this goes straight to scalar and scalar potential. Anytime that you have a high static value and then you have a high magnetic value, it'll always go magnetic to the center. The static value will always go to the outside. It will create regions in between. The regions in between will take on a different temperature. As you go closer to the Earth, it's warm. As you get out to the sky, it's cold. We can all see that. That's pretty simple. We understand that. You want to go climb a mountain, bring a jacket. Not a big deal. But it's telling you how the energy's working. Think about it again when we looked at our DC system. When we went to frequency high, it got cold. When we brought the frequency low, it gained amperage and gained a magnetic value and heated up. It's entropy. Entropy works in scalar. Your Earth is built in a scalar field. You must build a craft if you want anti-gravity in a scalar manner. In order to interact with anything, you have to. It is a fundamental fact. Now, what's also screwed up in the equations that we look at? When they originally looked at the magnetic value and they started rotating it, they got a field that came out around it. They were starting to deal with the negative field. Then they decided to go with the positive field. Now, look, this is where somebody gets really screwed up. And I think a lot of people in physics screw this up big time. You cannot replace the negative field with a positive field. Just because there's a negative and a positive there does not mean that you can interchange them at all. Why? Because in any rotating magnet system, your positive energy has a very small field in the locality in which it expands from. You basically get a ball this big, okay, out of a rotating magnet. If you're lucky, you get it out to 10 inches, okay? Where's the negative field? The negative field is the entire Earth around it. That's a huge difference. You cannot interchange the two. The negative field holds in the positive field. Think about that for a minute. You start messing with positive and negatives in a system in order to cancel them out, mathematically it may work, but in nature it will not. Why? Because the potential values are so much different. Let's get to another law in physics. And this one has to deal with creation of energy. You cannot create or destroy energy. Please understand this for what it is. This is another part where people trip up. When you spin a magnet, are you creating energy? No, you're not. You say, but I got energy out of it. I spun the magnet and I got the energy. Did you create it? No. No, you did not. You see, you can't create or destroy energy. So automatically, physics is telling you you did not create that energy. What did you do? Your magnetic value in a rotational field pulls in a little bit of the radiant energy in order for you to use it. Now, think about that. The magnetic field itself has created a rotational value to make a vortex, to pull in the radiant energy field. Well, you just said that the radiant energy field was a massive field all around us, and the amount that the energy of the magnet was there was much less. Yeah, I did. That should tell you how little you're interacting with that field. It is a very poor way to interact with the field. What does that mean? Your magnet has the wrong stuff in it. You're not building it with the right parts. It is not set up in order to peak the values in that radiant energy field. It's not pulling in enough. It's got the wrong chemical signatures to it. It's got the wrong stuff. You say, well, what if I add, cobalt? Well, cobalt will pull in more energy. Okay, what if I add, what's that one everybody likes? I'll think of it here in a minute. Anyway, what if you add a different material? You can pull in more energy. So, what do you need it to do? You need that energy to spike the voltage. Think about that for a minute. The value of your materials must spike the voltage. What is it telling you? Think about where the high voltage potential is. It's up higher, right? You want to get to contact it to pull it in? You must spike that in the actual vortex. You're looking for bismuth. And you need bismuth in its natural form? Do you need it in its crystallized form? Or, you'll love this, do you need it to be like, sorry, do you need bismuth to be like lead? Now think about that for a minute. Why would you want lead? It's created differently. The lead is different. It has a different signature to it. What does it do? It creates a spike. It creates a high voltage spike, so you're pulling in more energy. So think about what I'm trying to tell you here. Your magnets are not interacting with the field around you well enough. Therefore, you will not get what you think you're going to get. Now, if you look at the simple Faraday equations, you can simply see that, hey, magnetism is one of the main ones, so it must have a huge value to it. No, not really. It's not as powerful as you think it is. And it's not the power that's dictating the energy all around you. It's the radiant energy. Therefore, you must interact with the radiant energy in order to pull it in. You're not creating energy with magnets. You're simply pulling in the environment. Now that we understand that, what is 0 point? 0 point is where you interact with the environment through entropy in order to create a vortex that pulls the energy to a single point in there, which is a node, which will allow the energy to pass through the center of a device and be able to pull the whole voltage potential out. It's not a magnetic potential you're pulling out. It's a voltage potential. The way that you convert it is that you take a ferrite core and you wrap wire around it and you convert it out. That's how you do it. 0-point energy is 100% possible, and it should have been wrote into physics when they wrote the equations. Let's get back to the tower itself now. Why is this important? Because Tesla understood this already. High voltage potential at the top, you have two coils, okay? And we call them bifilar coils. And you have one on the top, one on the bottom. And what you have is a dielectric in between. You have a high voltage potential, which is basically what the dielectric is. And in that, you put a plate in between them, and you're able to pull out the radiant energy. Think about that. You're putting a metal plate in between them in order to pull out that energy, which basically means that you're starting to create a magnetic value as soon as you do it. You then have to twist the wire as it comes out. What does that do? It works kind of like a choke, and it pulls in the energy into it and gives you a higher magnetic value. Therefore, you're going to get more amperage out of it. Then you can start to convert. You can pull as much energy as you want from the atmosphere, but it's going to pump back and forth. Just remember that. Just like an AC flyback, it pumps between the atmosphere and the ground itself, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth at all times. That's how you get your frequency. You see, you must have the Earth itself attached, and you must have the high voltage potential attached at the top. Therefore, you could start to get all of this stuff put in there. If you don't, if you're missing one of them, you're going to have a massive problem. You will not be able to pull the voltage potential out of it. What does that mean? That means energy's always been free. As soon as Tesla created that tower, as soon as the Great Pyramid of Egypt was put up, they created free energy. You didn't have to pay for it. It's there. The high voltage potential is always there. It can always be pulled in. You can always pump more up to it because you're connected to the ground and letting the ground know, hello, I am now going to extract energy from you. And it'll continue to pump more energy. Just understand this. When you have so many pyramids all around the world, why do you have them? Because they were all energy devices. When you get over to Tesla's tower, you have another energy device. You're simply pulling in atmospheric energy, using the radiant energy to convert it back to regular energy based on the anode-cathode effect. That means that your Earth is working like an AC flyback, and it's going back and forth, creating AC all the time. Tesla was a master at AC. He knew every bit of this. Therefore, our laws of physics must change to adapt to this. And it has to change not as an extra paper on top of something. It goes to the fundamental law itself. You are missing things. Because you are missing things, the obvious is not in front of you. You will have to change the equation in order to match what you change. This is all stuff that I've told you before, but now we're connecting the dots for you. When you get to Maxwell's equations, they're wrong. And I'm sorry to say that. And they're not wrong because they knew better. They're wrong because they didn't take things into account that we know now. What makes a big difference in all this? Well, when you know the laws and you know how energy works, now you can start to manipulate it in your own way. You can bring up the scale and the radiant source. You can bring up the magnetic source. You can bring up the high voltage source. All things are available to you. You can take entropy and use it as your driver. I created a coil, okay? I took my Rodin coil, and I took a bifilar coil, which is not exactly a bifilar coil. It's kind of a cheat where it hides a dielectric inside. Anyway, that aside, I took the center of my Tesla coil, which is an impulse, and then I connected it to the coil. What it did in that coil was it made it colder. The environment around it was warmer. I used entropy in order to keep that thing running. I would take the wire out of the Tesla coil, move it right in front of the camera and let you see it. While my Rodin coil and my bipolar coils both did the same thing. They would continue to hold energy in it for a while. Why? Because they didn't meet room temperature yet. They had to be, you had to wait until the coil itself got back to room temperature in order for it to turn off based on the energy type I was using. I always tell you the center of my Tesla coils rate in energy, which it is. It's just in the negative. So what did I do? I changed the environmental condition on that coil. I put it into a negative state. Now, I don't mean that as in just flimsy positive and negative and I reverse the wiring. No. I mean, environmentally, it was in a negative state. It was matching the energy that was out there in the field that we live in until it got back to room temperature. When it got back to room temperature, the amount of energy was dispersed and gone. Think about what I'm telling you. Think about how the Meg works. You pull the cold into the Meg. What happens? The energy continues to stay until it gets back to room temperature. It's a very important way to understand things. We are getting to the fact of where we're learning what the radiant energy is and how to pull it out of your environment. It's all there. It's all been there. We don't interact with it because they screwed up the equation in the beginning. They did not do enough fundamental science before they started writing the equation. Faraday did not complete everything in there. When you look at his experiments, you'll find this out. They had balls in there where they're dealing with charge. He told you that the charge was on the outside. It did not penetrate the actual ball itself. It all stayed on the outside. So when I tell you energy flows on the outside of a wire, I'm not lying to you. It does. That's the way energy has always flowed. It has always gone. It doesn't go through the wire. There's not a whole bunch of electrons. There's not this whole thing. This is all field dynamics. This is not electrons. Electrons is a misunderstood term when you come into everything. Why? Because an electron builds out from the center and it builds a field. So every time you spin a rotating magnet, the field that comes out to it in each layer is an electron. That's where they are. And based on where you are, it'll give you a value for the electron. How do we know that? Because we built the RAV. We flat out built the RAV, and I can tell you exactly how an electron builds out. And it does not build out the way you think. It's not some little ball that sits outside of that. That's something different. That is your proton. That is not your electron. The electron was the field. Your proton fell in line with it. It's a completely different understanding of physics. I know that. And I don't know what to tell you other than it's true. You cannot base physics on something that's experimental. It must be based on something you could see. When I'm telling you this from experience in building things out. When we built that RAV, it built out in scalar. And as soon as we amplified one part of it, what happened? Well, it took out and it started putting out ghost strings from it. But the question is, were they always there? Or did we create them there? And the answer was as soon as the plasma itself started rotating and it folded back on itself, those rings have always been there. They've been there ever since the creation of it. All we did was we were able to see it for the first time. But that also tells you everything you need to know about the energy of the sun and how that builds out. It tells you how planet creation itself builds out. Is the moon a capture? No. The moon's been there the whole time. And there's several moons around Jupiter. Yeah, they've been there the whole time. They're not captures. They're not something that where some other planet hit it. It built out based on the actual geometry inside of a plasma field that rotates in a set pattern. And what creates a pattern? Resonance. Resonance is your structure. For those of you who understand this and understand how geometry coils work, resonance is your structure. Every time you get a ratio, it's in resonance. Every time you get a spiral formation, it's because of the resonance. Anytime you want to take two pipes, two cylinders, put them one inside the other, and then go like this to the inside one, you create resonance. People forget that. Why? Well, when you're dealing with a Tesla coil, it's pretty important, isn't it? I mean, you're dealing with the wire on the outside that's one cylinder, and then you got a PVC pipe on the inside, which is another cylinder, and you're creating a resonance of value, right? Or you got a magnetic field on the outside, and you got a wire field on the inside, and you're creating a resonance value. Why would this ever be important? And you guys are right. It's the music. Music is always put in resonance. But you have to understand it in its fundamental feature. You see, resonance is a fundamental of nature. If you don't treat it as that and you treat it as some vibration, you'll never understand it. And ever. And I mean, the next level of physics will go right over your head. You will never understand it. Because you don't create energy, you pull it in. What does it do when you have a coil by itself and it has energy into it? But it's way outside the field of your original pillar Tesla coil. Think about this. How is it getting energy? It doesn't make any sense, does it? If you don't know resonance, then it makes zero sense. Here's your pillar coil. Here's your field from your pillar coil. Where's your number 2 coil by itself? Over here. You say, but Nathan, that doesn't make any sense. You got it a foot or two outside of the range that it should be able to hit at. My value coming out is not close to it. Why is it turning on? Because it creates a node inside. It creates a vortex on both sides and creates a node inside. It now pulls in energy from the environment. It is now acting in the environment. It is now pulling in the radiant field because it matches it. Where does it pull it? Right to the center. Where did I tell you the Tesla coil has its radiant field? Right in the center. Why do I always tell you that? Because it's 100% true. You pull in energy. You do not create it. That's why it's working. The resonance gives it structure. It gives that node structure. It allows the vortexes to start to build. The wire itself allows for the vortex to build. Think about it. It's a bifilar coil if it's just a number 2 by itself. Therefore, it has a top that's wound this way, so you have a vector direction, comes out this way. Therefore, you have a second vector direction. They go inside of each other, just like this, and what's in the center? As it goes here, it spins. Just like this. What do you have? You have a node. That node is a fundamental pillar of how our universe builds out. You see, every sun is attached to the next one. Every single part of the universe is attached to the next. Energy goes throughout. It's all entangled. It's entangled because of that, because of the resonance value throughout the entire thing. Then it all returns to the center. How do you create over unity in a Tesla coil? You see, a lot of people would say, okay, well, how many number 2 coils can you put out there? Well, that's one way to get to a lot of energy, but it still has to do with the main pillar. You almost have to trick the system. The main pillar has to go in and all the pillars goes around it, and then you have to take an outside source and turn it on. Take all your pillars and put them in a geometric formation. Put one in the center. Turn on a different one on the outside. Let it go so that it always feeds the next one, always feeds the next one. You're always going to need some kind of physical matter in order to keep it running, though. That's one of the tricks to over unity is the physical matter. Does it need to be earth? No. It's water. Water is your physical matter in the system. Why? Because as soon as I add salt to that water, I have a battery. As soon as I add salt, I have now taken a complete structure and created its form, and I now have over unity. Think about that. I didn't do much to it. I simply understood the nature of what I was doing. I used a chemical process in order to store the energy for when I needed it. I used a resonance in order to create nodes in the entire thing, and I ran it. I followed the same simple process all the planets do in every solar system. I simply gave it energy from the outside. I went and took it and I entangled it. Now I can create one on one side set up that way, one on the other side set up that way, one all the way around it set up that way. I can create as many systems as I want out of it now. Now I have a main driving pillar. When I'm done, all the energy goes back. But the energy goes back amplified because I created the saltwater battery. Now I can pull it all back in at an amplified amount of energy because each single system gives me a certain amount of energy and I add them together. They do not cancel each other out. That's probably one of the least effective ways to create over unity. One of the most effective ways is just to pull in the energy from the atmosphere. And you say, well, technically that's not over unity, and I understand that. But from the energy you're putting in to the energy you get out, it is much more. Is it technically over unity? Well, no, because I can't create more energy than the cosmos has in itself. That's why I say it that way, because I know full well that the cosmos has more energy and I'm just temporarily using it. I didn't create it, I simply used it. When you get to the understanding of the fundamental laws of physics and you can change the beginning of it, changes everything. When I tell you we need to put the radiant value in there, the frequency, the entropy, all those things go into the fundamental laws. I'm changing your understanding of exactly how it works. Now pulling in the 0 point doesn't seem so hard, does it? You say, well, I create a 0 point when I rotate magnets now. Well, okay, now you're getting there. Well, what do I need to change in the chemical process of the magnet? Well, which one spikes the high voltage? You get into that, and guess what? Now you're looking at it the right way. Now I'm interacting with the field. Now I'm becoming the screwdriver in between the anode and cathode. Now I'm pulling in the correct energy. I can pull as much as the earth will give me. Now, when I go out to space, can I do the same thing? Yes. Why? The Rav told us the answer. When you create scalar, it is all over. Think about that, what I'm trying to tell you. The planets build out in the rings of scalar as they build throughout the solar system. Each one of them is a power point, but there's always energy in between them. It builds out to where the actual planet is. That's why the RAV is so important in the way it works. It comes out, it's like a leaky capacitor. It goes, and then it builds up into a field again, and we see the ring. Okay? That's where the most energy is. Then it dissipates again out a little bit, like a leaky capacitor, and goes out and builds another ring. Each one of those lines is where we have a planet. Think about that for a minute. But when you build out the RAV, that's exactly how it builds out. You start to create these little objects that go outside from the center core. And as you create more of them, you'll start to understand. They'll create one, then they'll create two to it, then they'll create three to it. They'll start to build out. This is nature's way of telling you how things work. It works on a small scale, it works on a big scale. You guys want to go into all these things with the micros different or, different than the solar scale. And I'm looking at you going, but the energy didn't change. The environment changed, but the energy didn't. When you change the fundamental laws and you look at the tower the way it's supposed to be looked at, everything is now possible. Anti-gravity is possible. 0 points possible. Over unity is possible. Everything that you needed to know was already possible. Tesla knew it. I, you know, I'm not saying that I created anything or did anything special. I just understood what he did. I understood why he did it. We did the experiment. We did the one wire energy experiment. We put the energy right into the water table. We were able to push it. What happened when we created a second coil? Well, we pushed it again. It's bouncing scalar off of each other. And it gives us more energy in return. So when you create multiple pyramids all over the planet, it gives you the same thing. That's why Tesla wanted that tower and one more. He wanted to verify it. In Colorado, he verified how it works on the water table. And he got the light bulbs to light up in the ground. If you put the center of a Tesla coil down into the water and you had a gopher who ran through the ground everywhere and the water just goes in there, you can literally walk all the way around the area where the water is, anywhere that water table is, and you can put the light bulb to the ground, any fluorescent light, and it'll light it up. It's 100% guaranteed fact. I've done it. It goes right into the water table. That's exactly where the energy is transmitted. Why? Because water structures. Because water structures, energy goes throughout it very easily. You say, well, AC is a bit different. AC interacts with everything differently. When you get to high voltage potentials before you go and change it into something that you want to use it for, it's a little bit different type of energy than it is in your AC and DC systems. It's a high voltage potential. In a high voltage potential and a pure magnetism, you're going to get a whole different type of energy. Just understand that. That's why they call it dirty AC. That's why they convert it back. That's why they say you have to break symmetry when you do it. What does it also mean? That you will find in interaction with crystal. I said, well, how is that possible? Here's one of the secrets to energy I don't think a lot of people tell you. Okay. Mike puts the piezoelectric disc in his Renegade device. Why? Because he learned the same thing I did on my gravity flyer. And just understand this, okay? You put it in the negative of the system, and what does it do? It amplifies the voltage field by double. Now, I want you to hear this. It amplifies the voltage field by double. What did I tell you were looking for in your magnets? You wanted to amplify the voltage field. What did I tell you to use? Voltage. I told you to use bismuth, which is a crystal. Just understand this, what I'm trying to tell you. The piezo works directly with voltage in a voltage potential system before it's converted. It means something different than when you put it into a system for simple frequency. They interact differently. What does that also mean to your systems? If you want a higher voltage, put in the piezo into your system to amplify it before it's rectified. Now, let me tell you a little secret about the jewel thief that I use on my gravity flyer. And I did a lot of extensive testing on this. And it goes back to something that would trip you out on how it works. I took the center of the Tesla coil energy, I put it into a transistor. As soon as I put it into the transistor, I put it into my Joule thief transistor, right into the base of it. What did it do? It created a saturation between the base, the emitter, and the collector. It gave me already a value that would start all three, no problem. It goes into a ring. In that ring, it amplifies the energy in it by double. It goes into the piezo disc. As the piezo disc is a receiver and a transmitter. Therefore, it interacts with my Tesla coil and it takes the field and it'll push down on it like a bubble and spring it every time. You're able to create more energy out of that piezo and it'll amplify the field. It'll interact with the same field as the Tesla coil because you're using the same energy. That's how that whole system's supposed to work. Why do you use in a geometry coil a Joule thief? Because it'll amplify the energy. Why would you put a piezo in it? Because it'll double the voltage. Think about that. What is a geometry coil doing? It cannot resonate. Just understand this. We all think it's resonance. It's not. And I had to learn this the hard way because that's the way I thought it worked too. Not till I built it. It's creating a diode effect. It's only giving you half rectification. How do I say that? If here's your dividing line in your oscilloscope, the energy that's on the top is all you're getting. It's the same thing Sean does when he uses his Tesla coil and puts it in AC. He cuts off the bottom. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? But it's a diode effect in order to amplify it. Why is it going to amplify it? Because the energy has nowhere to go. And then when you put it together, it starts to ring against each other. Once you do that, the amplification starts to skyrocket. You see, that's all the piezo does, is it amplifies that. Now, let's put it all together again. We take the RAV and we understand how to build it out. We understand that we want to amplify it. Well, once you amplify that with the piezo, it's the perfect oscillator. There's two parts to it. There's an amplification aspect to it, and there's an oscillator aspect to it. Why? Why is it the perfect oscillator? Because it bounces back and forth across each other. You put in one number, it boom, it bounces back and forth. That's why they create watches out of it. Well, I want amplification out of a certain portion of it, so I'll use a different piezo in a different way to amplify the other side of it. In the RAV itself, we can build out different fields. You see, you're not stuck at one value in the frequency. Every time you create a resonance frequency in that and you go higher or lower, it changes the actual RAV. So it'll change the type of star it would be. It can make a yellow star out of it, and then it can go on and it can make, two things of light coming out of it perfectly. You can change it however you want to, and however you want to pull the energy out of it. I'm working on a project right now, and I don't want to announce it until I get done with it, but it deals with that direct fact. We're pulling energy out of it, and it'll work in a fantastic way. We'll get back to the Wardenclyffe Tower again. What's the significance of it? Sorry, let me get a drink here. Is that Tesla told you how it worked. He made a radiant energy circuit. He patented it. He told you how that worked. He made a fountain device. Okay, he patented it. He's trying to tell you how energy and water work together. Think about that. He's given you two parts of the answer. He's also creating a dynamo. Why is that so significant? Think about all three. He said in a, I don't know if it was an interview, book, or paper, Then once you understood all of it, you'll get it. And I have it. It's the effect I've been telling you about the whole time. Energy is all around us. There is a sea of energy. He did put the 3 patents out there. You do have them. Even though you think they're completely separate, they're not. They're all tied into one another. It's a brilliant move on his part. He gave you the answer if you're smart enough to find it. In all of his testing, he gave you the answer if you're smart enough to find it. Some of the things that we saw the power coming from the atmosphere. We also saw it coming from the ground. Why? Remember when Sean put his Tesla coil in the AC, but he was able to pull the energy from the ground and it was shooting back at the Tesla coil? They say, well, that's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to ground out. We're supposed to put it in the ground. It wasn't doing that. It was shooting back at the Tesla coil. Why? Because there's a pump. It's an energy pump. A Tesla coil is always an energy pump. It always has been, always will be. Sure, it lights up light bulbs, but it's an energy pump. Just understand that. So we saw the energy shooting back. It's hugely significant in how this works. Okay? We knew that energy was pulling from the ground at that point. We also knew that, you know what I mean, you could pull in the energy of the atmosphere into the center once we did the water experiment. We knew both sides of the Wardenclyffe Tower already. It factually, as it's built, just understand this, has a very top on it for an energy accumulator. It then is driven right down into a coil that goes in between 2 plates, okay, creating your dielectric. It goes right into the water table and it's connected throughout. There's a separate ground that goes into the dirt, and then there's a water table that it's grounded out to as well. All of it's right there. He did it all. Once you start looking up exactly how that thing's built, all you had to do is take his radiant energy patent and put it in between that capacitor. And what'd you get? You got what you wanted. You got all the energy in the world that you wanted. It was all right there. You have to just create 2 plates. Put a plate in the center in order to pull it out. That's it. It would be the same effect if you went up to a high voltage line and put a plate in between. You'd be able to pull out as much energy as you wanted. Much energy as they have. Of course, then again, the electric company come and throw your butt in jail. But you'd still be able to do it. I mean, it's physically possible. I wouldn't do it. But, I mean, it's not possible. I'm just telling you these things, guys, because it's going to come down. I'm going to write them all down, and I'm going to put them out there for everybody. And I'll put the exact physics equations that you want. You know what I mean? We'll do it just the way that they do it. That way we all have it for free. I don't believe in patenting stuff for my own personal use. You know, the only reason I patent it is so somebody else couldn't patent it and take it away from all of you guys. So, you know, I'll just write it down and we'll publish it and be done with it. But there's things that are going to have to be added to the main equations. And once we do that, it's going to fundamentally change your understanding of what energy is. And let me say this as well. When you get into a atomic bomb, does it work the way you think it does? We all call it an explosion, but we're wrong. You say, well, why is that wrong? Well, an explosion would be it blasted everywhere. Big, light came out, and we'd see it just like a regular bomb would, right? They put a bunch of TNT into it, so why isn't it acting like a regular bomb? You know what I mean? Why can't I throw this thing at a hillside and have it explode? You know what I mean? Have everything fly out at me. What's going on? What's an implosion? It's pulling energy from the earth itself into it to make the explosion greater, and it pushes it out towards the bottom, and anything below it gets incinerated. Think about how that works. Why would you want that if you wanted anti-gravity? Because it pulled in the environment into the thing, into the device, by implosion, by an impulse. And it created a field around it, and you can see it clear as day. The only thing you didn't want is the explosive effect, so you wouldn't have the TNT in there. You want all the effects of that bomb without the bad effects to it. What does that also mean? Anytime that you create an anti-gravity field, there's going to be radiation that's going to screw you up all the way around it. On the inside, the radiation will be good for you. On the outside, it'll be very bad for you. Okay? What will it also do? When you start compressing gas, this is one of the other points I want to tell you. When they did this, they talked about it as, excuse me, let me go back to say who. Okay? We look at Faraday. And then when you wanted to look at how Maxwell did it, he said it was like a liquid. That's incorrect. It is a gas to plasma state, not liquid. What does that mean? They always say it's an incompressible amount. So in mathematics, it would be outstanding to have because it gives you a true value where it's fixed. What's the problem with it? Well, the problem is gas isn't like that. Okay? It doesn't go into a liquid form until you compress the living daylights out of it. Okay? That means that it has a higher value of compression into it. When you create it with energy into it, you create a plasma state. It's like matter, but not matter. It's one of the fundamental screw-ups of everything. They keep saying it's like water. It's not. Energy is not like water. Energy is more of a gaseous form. Tesla told you this. Okay? It goes through things like gas would. Not how water would, how gas would. This state that it creates is a spot in between gas and plasma. That's where energy resides, not in a volume of water. It is a mistake. It is a fundamental one, and it should be changed. But think about what that does, and think about mass as far as that's concerned. Jupiter has plasma and gas, and its mass is huge. Okay? And the gravity field is much bigger than our Earth. We have matter, dirt, rock, iron, core. We have matter. Okay? What we know is matter. I still think gas and plasma is matter. Could be something that physics doesn't agree with me on, or could, I don't know. But when you get to the Earth, the gravitational field's lower. Why? Because the energy is being absorbed into everything around it and everything it's created. In Jupiter, it's not. It's a plasma gas state. It creates it differently, but has a higher gravity level because it's energy, plasma, and gas creating it. Think about what that means. For those of you who try to debunk the electrical state in planets, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. Not in that it's AC or DC, because AC and DC put it in those things as a wrong term as well. Energy is not wrong. The electrical state when dealing in energy is right. Everything is dependent upon it. You cannot have Maxwell's equations without it. You cannot have the fundamentals of physics without it. You cannot have your lasers without it. To debunk it says that you have no idea how things work. You have no idea how interaction works. Why in anti-gravity would you want to compress gas, not compressed matter? You'll need substantial matter in the craft that you have. But the field around it, in order to get the gravitational energy higher, You need compressed gas. Think about how that works. I'm telling you the fundamental reason why they get energy wrong. They're using certain effects wrong. They say the swinger limit. We got to beat the swinger limit. Not if you understand energy differently. The swinger limit is about how much energy you can put into a ball. Think about this, okay? Take any DC system you want, AC system, I don't care. Here's your ball. Filled up. Go right ahead. Filled up. They're going to fight the environment on the outside. It's going to give you a limit. I'm going to use cold energy on this side. I'm going to pull the energy from the atmosphere into it. Your ball does not expand. Your ball has a finite amount of energy into it. Because I built my ball to pull in the environment around it, mine will expand. I will take that swinger limit and absolutely shred it. And I'll do it right away. You want to beat that number. You have to do it by understanding the fundamentals of actual physics. You're going to have to change it. You have to use the other side of energy, the stuff that's all around you. You cannot beat the amount of energy in the planet. But when you use the energy as a planet as your power source, you now grow that fundamental ball of energy that gives you the most gravitational force. The only way to beat gravity is to create gravity. Then you need a vector direction. You need an area that you can take your vector and point it to in order to go. Your energy must go in that area at that zone. How do we know that? When we create the RAV, we have a vector direction in it when it starts to shoot out light from it. It literally gives us a vector direction. If we close off the other side and disrupt the equilibrium that's going on, I now have a vector potential. I don't allow it to come out this side. See, equalization's here, vector potential's here. I can destroy the swinger limit at will because I understood the fundamental parts of the energy itself and I put it into the system the right way. Building energy is not all the same. You must understand layering. You must understand which fundamental layer goes where, which one needs to be amplified, which one needs to be lessened, how to contain it in an impulse field, not a pulsed field. You never want to use the outside of a testicle. It is a pulsed field. You must use the inside of it. It is your impulse field. It is 10 times stronger than the outside. You always want to expand energy. But in order to do that, you must create it as a pump. Why would they put the piezo disc going straight to a node? Because you need the amplification of the resonance frequency in order to create the pump. The pump pulls in the energy. The energy now amplifies in the system and continues to pull it in. It is no different than the Casimir effect between two plates in physics. Charge it at 9 volts, pull them apart, get 1,000 volts. You are pumping the node for energy, but as you pump it, the energy inside the bubble increases. Therefore, it increases the size of the bubble. Where if you did it the other way with hot energy, you have a finite amount of energy that you can place inside the bubble. It is a complete departure from fundamental physics because you had to go back and rewrite the equations that they screwed up on in the beginning and didn't put them in there. And it's not because they knew and didn't put them in there. It's because they did not understand what they were dealing with because they had not scientifically identified it before all the equations were written. You have to put enthalpy in there. You have to put the radiation factor in there. Both things are severely important to those. You have to put the frequency in there. Okay. You also have to know that it's a flow between high voltage potential and magnetism based on frequency. That's what Earth is. That's how it works. That's how it pulls energy in. It is not just magnetics. Magnetics by itself is a failure, a complete failure. It's a failure to understand what you're actually dealing with. It's a failure to understand what the amplification factors are. Let's take Tesla's earthquake machine. You guys think it's just an oscillator. Oscillators do not expand. Oscillators stay in a certain vicinity and create an oscillation. What do you need? You need a pulse. You need a beat frequency. You need two frequencies in a beat. Why? Why does that work? Because the beat frequency itself is a pulse. It takes it and it captures it in these lines. So you get energy zone, no energy zone, energy zone, no energy zone. It holds it and pushes it out. But every time it creates a new line, it increases the amount that comes out. Once you get to that, now you can take things around you and start to interact with your environment around you. In the Tesla earthquake machine, it took days. Why? Because time is a factor you must account for in everything that you do. That should also tell you something about what's going on when you deal with things. Time and distance are important. You know, frequency equals 1 over time. Okay, but it also is frequency equals 1 over the distance. Because you're dealing with a wave. And I get really, weirded about the speed of light and everything, because I think it's not the speed of light, it's literally the saturation of your scalar field. Based on that saturation, the light speed will change. Oh, it'll screw your system right up. What do I mean by that? As light flows, it's going to hit this wall with a massive amount of energy in it. And then it's going to slow it down. And it's going to go different colors on you. And then it'll go through and it'll hit another wall and do it again. It'll continue to do it. So when you say light speed, it's not necessarily light speed. It's in non-impedance light speed is what you're trying to say. But you always say it as light speed. So everything in the universe has impedance in it. That's your problem. Anytime you create a magnetic value in a system, you're creating impedance for light. You're creating the values. So every time we get to a different level in a scalar field, you're creating different light. So when you look at it in that manner, you realize right away the speed of light doesn't make sense. The unimpeded speed of light would make more sense. But actually what you want to talk about is how you could take away all the impedance of it and then let the light go through it without it. And in order to do that, you have to create a hole in it. And you have to go to a different dimension in it. And I don't mean that is you're going to go over and see yourself in another Earth. That's not the dimension I'm trying to talk about here. There's fundamental dimensions in nature where you're going to have to go. Okay? You're going to have to punch into an area where that energy isn't existing and go right through over to an area to where the energy exists again. That's what you have to do. Then it's unimpeded. Then it's a wormhole. You don't bend space-time to get there. I don't know who created that, man, but that really bothers me. You don't fold space. Space is already folded. You don't fold space ever. You're going in and out of a dimension. You're not folding space. You don't get to deal with space in that way. You don't live on a grid. You can't take a grid and go like this. I don't know who wrote it that way, but they were wrong to do it. Now, it doesn't mean the equation's wrong. It means the way that you explained it to everybody was piss poor, and it was wrong. It was completely wrong. Yeah, teleforce is not necessarily what you want to get into here. I'll be honest with you, man. It's easier to understand it with the fundamental laws of physics fixed. Okay? That whole teleforce thing, you're just browning the cow's ass with another brand. That's all you're doing. You're just going, you know what brands do I have? How many can I put on the cow's ass? That's what physics does. Okay? It's the same energy. You're just changing the environment. That's all you're doing. You don't need to put all the brands on the cow's ass. You just need to understand energy doesn't change, environmental conditions change. Therefore, it looks like the energy changed and it reacts differently. But you didn't change the actual energy. It's all been created the exact same way the whole time. They could use whatever name they want. Look, I don't care if you call it the Pais effect. I don't care what you call it. It's all doing the same damn thing. Okay? It's all pulling energy in from the environment. They try to put their name on it so they can stick their brand on it. Okay? They like to put browns on cows' asses. That's what physics does. Let me patent it. Let me show you. Jacques Lafarge did it too. He sat there and he created this field that goes around. I did that over a year ago. What's the fundamental problem with it? Well, you didn't add in anything else. You drew the physics exactly like it would say if you were using Maxwell's equations. What's the problem? You didn't add the rest to it. Once you failed to do that, you failed to create it the right way. You failed to learn how to amplify it. The paper is basically a paperweight. It literally should go in the fireplace. You have to understand things the way energy builds them out from a fundamental point of view. If you want to talk about Tesla coils and tuning, GL out there, I tune Tesla coils daily. I tune, bifilar coils. I turn regular coils. I can convert the Tesla coil over to an AC voltage without a problem. I can put it into water without a problem and create an energy through the ground. I could create geometry coils that are circular and make them start up by using a cylinder coil. Every form of resonance I've created, I can make it go 11 feet without a problem just by using resonance. I could plug it into the ground of my house in the front yard and have another one start in the backyard just with a number 2 coil plugged into the ground plug. Please understand this. I deal with resonance all the time. I know exactly how it works. I understand why it's a fundamental force in nature and how it builds out different things. We build geometry coils, for God's sake. I mean, there's not much, left. I know how they're entangled. I know how to create over unity in them. I'm not coming from a place where I don't understand these things. I'm coming from a place where I do. And I'm trying to help everybody get there. And if you listen, you can understand it. I put out the builds. I mean, if you want one of my geometry coils, all you got to do is download it. They're on the Thingiverse. You can wire it. It's not that hard. I did videos on how to make it. Everything that I do, I even went on and made a 3D printing channel where you guys can go on and learn how to make it in your CAD device in the Fusion 360 and build it. I try to do everything that I possibly can to help people out and to learn it. I don't want money from this, guys. I mean, I like money to get in to build the projects, but that's what the money's for. It's not for me. You know what I mean? I just simply build the stuff, man. I'm good at it. This is what I do. This is my retirement. You know what I mean? I decided when I was done working, hey, what do I want to do? I want to sit around. I want to build coils and show people how to do them. And if I know how to change the fundamental nature of physics, then I'll do it. Darren, thank you very much, brother. I do appreciate that, man. Go right over to a project, my friend. Yeah, we're gonna end up changing the world with this. Once I change that number, what will immediately happen? And understand this. So if I go back and I change Maxwell's equations and give you the right answers and tell you how the equation actually works, 0 point energy will be easy for everyone. Once you understand that there's two sides to it, the energy all around you in the sea of energy and the energy you create, or not create, but the energy you pull in, I should say, which is the right way to say it. The energy that you pull in, now I'm looking at it like this and I go, here's the energy I'm pulling in, and I got not even 1%. Here's the energy that's available. How much do I want to pull out? I mean, just think about that. We're we're so just wrong. Yeah. 369 in energy is ratios. For those of you who don't understand that, those are ratios. The ratio determines where the frequency is and how the frequency builds out. You build out frequency and ratio because it's on the musical scale. And it'll teach you how resonance works. Sorry. Yeah, I just want to say hi to the Traveling Fools out there, man. You guys did an awesome show last night on the on all the oh man, now I'm a real brain fart. They did a great show last night. It was all trivia. It was really fun, man. I fell asleep in the last hour. I actually won the what was it the cars. I knew a lot more about old cars. I think a lot of people got the same score as me though. But yeah, it was fun, man. I enjoyed that one. So like dispatch will tell you, if it's something about an old car, generally I know it. I've owned plenty of them. For those of you who didn't know, when I was 16 years old, I had a 2,500 square foot shop in my backyard that was empty. So what I would do is I'd buy an old classic car. They, not necessarily classic back then. Um, it was back in the 80s. So we would buy, I'd go out and I'd purchase a 70 Nova or something like that, and I'd tear it down to nothing and rebuild it, repaint it, all of it, do all the body work, sent out for the interior, everything, and I'd restore classic cars. So, I learned how to weld. I learned how to, work on all the systems in there, did all the electrical work, did all the painting on them. And I did that for quite a while. So I probably owned over 30 classic cars before I was even 20 years old, and made a, decent amount of money, enough, to help the family. So yeah, kind of an interesting thing. It comes back to help you when you want to answer a question. So yeah, just kind of something in my past that I did. So anyway, all right, man. What's going on out there in the chat, man? I'm actually just, to be honest with you, man, if I have to patent it so nobody else will, I will. If I don't have to and I can release it without it, I'll just do it. Because I personally rather just put it on the whiteboard and show you what's going on. And then you guys can all do it yourselves. So, oh, right on, brother. Body mechanic. A lot of Bondo. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It just, once you get into how to actually do this thing, man, it's you straighten out the metal as beautifully as you can, as straight as you possibly can, and it's little thin layers. And God, it's tedious, man. Sometimes you have to go over a part quite a bit, so not as easy as they make it look on TV. I can tell you that. Right on, man. You have a new version of the Sacred Geometry Project. No, I'll go ahead and post that, man. I'll put it on there. We had a couple people respond already. They actually really like it. So, for those of you who don't know, um, Dennis sent me this thing on the last live, and it has a bunch of geometry and stuff in there, and you're able to interact with it by putting frequencies and stuff in. And it's on my Patreon for free. You can go on there and download this thing and tweak it. And he has the source code in there, and he also has the already built interactive part. So it was really cool. I'll try to grab those links and post them in this as well, so you have them. So, but I'll add that to it, Dennis. Last time, last time I turned, he said there's no sound on it. Last time I turned it on, man, I had hearing aids underneath my headphones, and they were blasting out my ears. So right on, brother, right on. Yeah. So actually, I have a thing in my backyard, and I was gonna do this. So I have a how do I say a windmill tower that's back there, and it's about 7 foot tall. So I wanted to, put the top on it like the Wardenclyffe Tower, and maybe inch it by the power lines, maybe not, but you know what I'm saying, and just see if we can't pull the energy to the ground. So I already built like a little pond out back. So for those of you who don't know, I have a 12 foot by 12 foot area where the water goes about this, and there's a gopher trying to get it at all times, but they put sand in it. And I was doing the water experiment. I would basically take my Tesla coil, put it right in the center on a, like a little stool, run the wire down to it, straight down through the center of it and put it into the water. And I was able to walk up around it with 4 foot lights, the fluorescents, and just touch the ground. You know what I mean? And it would turn on each one as I go. It's a pretty interesting thing. But now if we build it a little more like Wardenclyffe, that'd be awesome. Uh, yeah, I'll have to get some more wood and stuff out there, and we're dealing with different coils. So yeah, that might be pretty cool, man. It's actually a metal tower. Yeah, it's actually metal. So, but Wardenclyffe was metal, so no problems there. And then for those of you who watched it, man, um, I turned on from Courtney Sams. He sent me a 3 foot Tesla coil that's 8 inches in diameter, and that thing zapped the living daylights out of myself, man. It bit me pretty good. And people said that they heard on the sound, which I'm mostly deaf, so I don't have my hearing aids when I'm doing stuff because it's like tends to blow them out. But they said they can hear the energy build up in the coil before it got me. So that was pretty cool, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. It wasn't that much voltage, but I used a PNP Slater exciter circuit at, I think it was at like 16 volts. It wasn't even very high. It just built up in the coil, and then bam, it got me. So yeah, that was that was pretty interesting, man. Yeah, well, yeah, cars and tools aren't much different, man. Just a bunch of gearing. Hey, also, I wanted to tell you guys, Traveling Fools is back this Friday, and we're gonna do a great show out there for you. Don't know what it is yet, but we usually have a lot of fun on Friday nights, man. So after my regular Friday show with Joe uh, at 7:30 at night, Pacific Standard Time, man, we go on with Traveling Fools, man. We do an Abby Normal show, man. It's absolutely awesome. I'm looking forward to it, man. I really wish we had done one last week, but I understand Fools had to take care of the missus, man, on her birthday. So, yeah, we all couldn't get out of that one, not if we tried. So, it's going to be a cool one, man. So, I really look forward to it. We all have a great time, laugh, and it's not so serious about physics, just a real fun show. So, this Friday, man, it'll be broadcast on this channel, or you're welcome to go over to the Traveling Fools channel as well and watch it there. Either way is good, man. We're just happy that everybody gets in and participates in the chat. So, really cool, man. And here we go. Dispatch says there's a new special guest on Friday on the Traveling Fools channel. Absolutely. Looking forward to that, man. Yeah, not a problem. We all understand that, man. Hey, I got 20 something years of it, man. I understand. You know what I mean? Right on, man. Yeah. Okay. So now that we learned about a lot of stuff today, man, hopefully you guys understand how it all falls together now and why we keep doing the builds that we're doing, man. Yeah. Okay. So you need an easy out. Or if it's rusted in there, you need to be able to shoot some gunk in there to release the rust. That's what I would do. Um, or you just heat it up. If you can knock the rust off a little bit, heat it up, man, and then you can pull it out, spin it out. Normally, man, if it's not that bad of a thing and it's just on the little three bolt hanger, I'd just drill the sucker out, break it in half, cut it, whatever you got to do, get it out of there, take a torch strip, blow a hole through it, and then pull it, man, and just put a new part in there. That's what I'd do anyway. I don't. Yeah, those things are fairly cheap. Let's see. You tried all that? Well, I mean, how hard is it? Is it in the manifold itself? If it's in the manifold, you need an easy out. You drill it, okay? And the easy out works by putting it in there, and it has a reverse thread in it. So as soon as you drill it, it'll pull the thread. And you want to use some how do I say this, like WD-40, mouse milk, something like that, some kind of agent in order to get it in there. And they have stuff like that. That's what I would do. Ooh, it's an aluminum. Let's see. You want to heat up the aluminum. Oh man, that's even bad because it distorts. Aluminum has no memory, so it sucks. You're gonna have to drill it out and retap it. What I would do then is drill it under the size of the bolt pattern itself, where the threads are only in there, and then I would put something in there and try to wedge it and pull the threads. That's what I would do, because aluminum's a pain in the butt. It has no memory. It will screw up the whole head. Yeah, good center punch, exactly. We all dealt with it, man. We've all sat out there and dealt with it. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, don't heat aluminum. Yeah, it has no memory to it. It's not good. You need lubricant. There you go. Just get out plenty of lube on it, man. That's what you need. Oh man, I love it. I love mechanic stuff, man. You know, I watched a guy the other week just on camshafts, and that's what he does. He just grinds camshafts, and I loved his pace of the way he says things. Just kind of methodically paces it out. I loved it. And not that I wanted to learn any more about camshafts. I just the way the guy was talking was awesome, and he's dealing with the issue one thing at a time. You know what I mean? And he was just going through it and explaining it, and I just thought it was a cool way to do it. So yeah, they break a lot. He goes KY. I don't know if you want to do that, man. You might be getting accused of something else at that point. You know what I'm saying? You're in your garage alone and you got KY. That ain't a good look, man. Try to explain that one to the wife. Yeah. You'll never pick up another torque wrench again in your garage. Anyway, that's hilarious. Yeah. Oh man, I had some cool cars, man. I had my last car I just had was a blue 72 Nova. Thing was gorgeous. I just never drove it anymore. You know what I mean? I bought it, you know what I mean? And I thought, hey, I'll spend some money and I'll go out and drive it, down to the park when I go walking in the morning and stuff like that. And at some points I just said, you know what, forget it. And I just started driving my truck again. So I just sold it. I was kind of over it at that point, man. I had a lot of them. You know what I mean? Yeah, let's see. I had a 69 Nova, a 70, a 72, I had a 73, which I switched and cut out the back of it in order to change where the gas tank came in. So it'd be a 70 Nova style, ripped off the whole front bumper and all that garbage they put up there. The window in the back was different, so it had a different shape to it. So that was always there. but it still looked nice. Changed the rear ends on them and jacked them up a little bit in the back, man. Kept it a little low, put 2.5-inch drop spindles on the front. So it gave it a lower look in the front. Put 16s on it and ran a tire. It was only about, say, that yay thick on the front. And we did that by about 8 inches wide in the front. And then in the back, we can put 10-inch meats on there if you know exactly which rim to buy, which is because it has like a +3 offset on the back. It's not very much because of where the body comes down at. My Camaro was so much easier. But yeah, you give it a good rake, man, and it looks awesome. I always kept the bench seat in there, didn't ever put buckets in them. I like, having the wife next to me. So yeah, I had those. Um, I had a 70 Camaro that was awesome. I actually had three of them. And the last one that I had the rally in the front. So you get the split bumper, but you'd also get the little, what is it, like 2.5, 3-inch part that sticks out in the front on that center grill. And that was awesome, man. That thing was just kick ass, man. The tires on the back were real fat 12-inch wide meats in the back. And we ran those on 17s, man. That was pretty cool. The only thing I didn't like is the doors were just heavy on those cars. So they tend to sag over time, which actually sucked. And then what else did I have? I had an El Camino, old school. It was 68 El Camino. That was pretty cool, man. I should have kept that one. But I had those, man. All kinds of different classic cars, trucks. I always took the firewall, man. Just took a torch and cut them out. Took some sheet metal in there and put it, squared it off just like you see a classic car do. Things like that. Paint them up, man. Make them look real nice. So love cars, man. Love cars. So I physically I can't work on them anymore. So I can't even barely walk sometimes. So yeah, but I love cars. Oh, James. Did you guys see that last update on James? So wow. For those of you who don't know, man, James out there had that. How do I want to describe this in a decent manner? He basically had a big stainless steel rod, and it had all the writing on it. And we did the interviews with him on the Traveling Fools channel, and some of his stuff that he's putting out now is kind of crazy. He said he got a letter from an unspecified government, and it didn't look like it was from a government. Okay. Then he just basically said he got his front of his car's windshield is cracked. He says he thinks it's got shot. So I don't know if that's true or not. I know that he likes chicken strips because he eats those quite a few times, and he really enjoyed his rotisserie chicken that he put on there. So, and then he wanted to go on Joe Rogan and do an interview and then sell this thing for a lot of money so he can get away from it and have a comfortable lifestyle. So the story kind of changed from the beginning of, hey, I found it and this is what it is, to I'd like to go on a big show and get some money and eat some rotisserie chicken. And yeah, I think that story's pretty much dead. So that's my opinion on it. And I'm not making fun of it at all. I'm just telling you facts. But that was interesting. The 3i Atlas went through right around the sun. It's on its way to Jupiter. And, right before Christmas, we're going to be able to see it real close to the Earth, in case you're interested in that. They keep saying that there's different things, and I did a video on my channel if you wanted to check it out. But it has to do with the structure of 3i Atlas and what it's actually made of. It's not a comet at all. So if you wanted to check out that video, it's on there. They also had another thing coming through our solar system that had a different name to it, and it's now more popularized as Blue. It's still just more space objects coming through. It's not the last. We're going to get a lot more coming through, so get used to it. The next couple of years is going to be interesting, I'll tell you that. Darren, I'm right there with you, man. Right there with you. Oh man, that thing. I think we had it on the first night, man. We pegged it what it was. We didn't peg it. You know what I mean? They yeah, we knew what it was, man. Kind of one of those things. But it's all interesting in how everything turns out, man. Pretty awesome. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. With a lot of these things out in physics, when we start to talk about them, they're just telling you different names for things. And they say, "Oh, we got this thing over here, and it's a multitude of answers." You know what I mean? Basically, just throwing dice. That's what they're saying. And I couldn't believe it when I heard it. There's a lot of things like that. Simple observations become very high power physics in math, and it's kind of a distortion of how things work because they're not taking into account anything else. And I don't know how many times I got to say it or tell people, until you interact with the field that you're in, you'll never get to the fact of anti-gravity or even understand it. Sorry, it just works that way. And then once we get past the fact of what you put in a magnet, you'll start to understand it. When you deal with the outside of a UFO craft, you're dealing with the transistor. Why? It's an amplification of what's inside. It deals with the saturated value if you know how to run it right. So when I tell you you can run a transistor by the center of your Tesla coil, try it. Go over there and try it. I showed you on my channel I could do it. Why is that important? Because you can add as many transistors as you want. Go in there and put 10 of them in there. You're going to run 10 different things. Why is that important? Well, if you want to create 10 more Tesla coils, you can run 10 more Tesla coils. If you want to create spark gaps out of them, you can create spark gaps out of them. If you want to run DC flybacks, you can run DC flybacks. It changes the fundamental nature of how that was supposed to run because it deals with saturation. It doesn't deal with electrons. God, I don't know who came up with the electron and the way they thought it worked, but it didn't work that way. There's an impedance in the system. Let me just tell you this, guys. It frustrates me a lot when I have to deal with this. You get into wiring systems and you're going to learn something. I watched a channel they just showed, and it was talking about noise inside of your system. Why would noise screw up your system? Well, because it's unbalanced at that point. Remember, you're in DC energy. So what it does is anytime you change the frequency in it, you're creating impedance. You're creating a point where that frequency needs to slow down. Anytime it slows down, it changes your system. Anytime it does that, it creates heat in your system. So if you got a lot of heat in your system, you're not running your system right. If you want to cure that, you have to get the frequencies right in your system. But that doesn't mean that you need to use the values that they tell you to use. Sometimes the worst values that you can use are the best answers because the way the parts actually work versus the way they're telling you they work. I can't tell you how many parts that talk about saturation and holes, and it's a waste of my time. Excuse me, they talk about electrons and holes, and it's a waste of my time. It is literally a waste of my time. You go into a capacitor, and what's it dealing with? It's dealing with the dielectric in between the two plates. That's what it's dealing with, not a bunch of electrons. It's the dielectric in between the two plates is what you're creating in there. Okay? That's what keeps it steady. That's what keeps the system smooth. You're dealing with saturation in each part. So when you go to change the frequency in there, you're manipulating the whole system, and you don't realize you are. But once you get to the end of it, it's so screwed up that the damn thing runs so hot in different places, it's a disaster. Knowing what each part is important. Like a diode acts like a capacitor sometimes. So if you take a diode and you put a solid capacitor over the front and back side of it, it takes the actual sound out of the system and it stops impedance. What does it do? It makes your system run smoother. When your system runs smoother, guess what? Now you have a better system. It's cleaner, it's faster, it works faster. We get into why you would put a coil in a system and why you wouldn't. Well, because anytime that you can make something resonate inside your system, you pick up extra energy in it. because you're pulling more in from the environment. So now you can put it in there and somewhere else in your system and go, boom, two things, separate spots, pull up energy real easy. You start changing things and running them into little cores. Understand this. Anytime a wire curls, you have a magnetic value that goes in there and you've changed the frequency. Okay, you put it around and I see this a lot of times when you go to the plug that goes into the wall in some kind of a stereo unit, and it'll be having a little ferrite, ring on it, and they'll wrap it around there once or twice. Why? Because you're changing the frequency in it. That's why. By creating a magnetic value in order to change the frequency. When we get into high level electronics and you want a smooth system, you have to watch out for that. Because it's a waste of money. It literally is impedance in your system. Every time you create impedance in your system, you might as well take dollars out of your pocket and throw it at it. Because that's all you're doing. I can't tell you how many electrical systems, man, I bypass all that stuff in there by putting a smooth frequency. And then people keep going and saying the same thing. I don't know how many over unity people I've heard say this. Oh man, my system just out of the blue, and I'm running a spark gap, and then the whole thing starts running at room temperature for my spark gap. And I don't understand why. Well, you started to resonate your spark gap with the rest of your system. It got rid of the impedance and runs faster. It is now not slowing it down and creating amperage in your wires. It's actually running a higher voltage limit, and it's making it run better. How do I induce that into a system then? It's by understanding the values and weights and everything else in your system. When you plug something in and you see it immediately gets hot, pull it out. You put it in the wrong part. You may have to go and change several parts. I've done it where the value absolutely makes no sense. The value on the capacitor makes no sense. The diode makes no sense, but it runs perfect. Why? Because the weight of the actual object in metal value made it run cleaner. I mean, think about that. It literally makes no sense. It's not the values that they recommend at all. Why is it working? Because that's the way the system wanted it to run without impedance. That's why. This comes into computing and power and computers all the time. We get way too much heat. How do you reduce heat? Well, you get it to run on mostly electricity. Why would you want a PNP instead of an NPN in there? Because you're pulling the energy through the system versus pushing the amperage to the system. Every computer right now is built on an NPN, which is a bad way to run it because it induces heat into the system. When you get over to quantum computing, they say, oh man, it's making that what do they call it, quantum tunneling? No, it's saturation. You have saturation that's turning on the transistor next to it because you oversaturated it. It's not quantum tunneling, that's saturation. Okay? Because you used an NPN and you have way too much energy running through the system. If you would have converted to a PNP a long time ago, it would have run at a higher voltage level, but less heat in the entire system. And what you want to end up creating in some of those computers is you have ones and zeros. So what it does, it runs through and it turns on one system while running another system, and it runs another system based on where you set your ones and zeros. Well, you don't want that. You want unimpeded energy going to one section at a time. You want one to handle all memory. You got one to handle the process, going into graphics. What does it do? It reduces the amount of impedance in the system and allows it to flow faster. So that's what you want in your computing. And you could tell by the way they built things that they knew this. Somebody in there knew what they were doing, because you go from the base on your base pin, and then here's your emitter collector in your base pin. Well, they knew that you take all three and you saturated them and it runs, right? So then they started going, well, then let's put the base, the emitter and collector here, and we'll put the base on top. Okay. Then they said, well, then let's put the base all around, because they knew it dealt with saturation. It wasn't electrons and holes. It was saturation. They knew it. They didn't want to tell you that because they would advance your understanding of it, which means you could build something better than them. They don't want you to know that. But that's what they did. I mean, it was pretty clear to see. So why would you want the outside of a UFO to do that? Because you want to be able to pull the energy from the environment directly into the shell of it, which will actually amplify the field going around it, which will make a very good, how do I say that? A very good way to keep gravity into it, to make a gravity well. I mean, that's what you're doing. If you're creating gravity in the system, you're creating a gravity well. There's no two ways to get around it. That's what you're creating. You already knew it. I mean, if you bothered to learn the Tesla turbine, you'd understand Mach a little bit better and energy values and why you would put, mesh on the outside and, charge it. You'd understand it goes right through the air without hitting that barrier. Why? Because it's pulling it in. It's not forcing against it. It's pulling it in. They understood this on the B-2 bomber. That's why they used it. Makes it go faster because there's less impedance. Why? I mean, you got to understand all energy is everywhere, and all you have to do is transform it. They learned how to transform it because they directly had to deal with the situation. So in order to deal with the situation, they had to understand the energy form it was in, then convert. That's all we have to do as human beings if we want to learn things. That's why the Wardenclyffe Tower is so interesting, along with the Pyramid of Egypt. We're converting energy in a different way because we understand all the laws of physics, not just partial of them, and it begins in the beginning. You say, why can't you just add a paper and change it then? Because every equation is based on that beginning one. Every time somebody writes something, they're not just going to add your paper to it. You have to fundamentally change the core principle of it in order for everybody to get it right. That's why. That's exactly why. Because then it changes everything. And why would you have a principle that's always there and have it only on a certain equation? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Because then all the rest of them are just wasted of time because they didn't put the right equation in the beginning. So they didn't deal with all the fundamental forces as they were. You have to change the main equation. Once you do that, then all the rest of them should fall into line. As a matter of fact, they make it much faster and easier to understand things. Have to change the core. It's fundamentally wrong. Why do you think I have music things out there talking about changing physics? It's not because I dislike things in it. I just know that they're wrong. I knew that what they're based on was wrong. Simple magnetic form is wrong. Sorry, it is. It deals with different fundamentals, and without those fundamentals in there, it's basically a waste of time. You'll get answers, and I'll tell you the exact way that works out. You get probably 80% of them right, and the last 20 you won't. Will you advance physics beyond that? No. Because you run into a dead end. You have nothing to alter. And then what do you end up doing? You end up taking things on one side of the equation, adding them to another, to the other side of the equation, and flipping them in order for them to cross out. That's what you end up doing. Instead of just putting the right answer in there. Okay? It's not terribly difficult. Yeah, basic magnetic form is garbage. Complete trash. Because it's not telling you what the things actually are. It gives you the easiest possible solution. And what makes it worse and drives me absolutely insane, every time I go to research this, there's somebody who wants to take part of the equation and cut it off. I don't know if you guys dealt with the same thing. I tried to watch Maxwell's equations, and every time I do, some guys, we don't need this over here. You don't need the 4 pi over here. Oh, you don't need this over here. Well, hold on. Maybe it had value and I wanted to see it. Why would you take that away from me? Give me the full explanation of it. Let me tell me what you know. Because I'm not just going to watch you. I'm going to watch 5 other people on it, and I'm going to see where they're all going with it and if they're all right. And then I'm going to go back to the very root of how they created it and learn the experiments that they did in order to come up with these laws. Because I want to check and see if they're right. And then, sure enough, as soon as I check it and I see what they're working with, and I go, how in the world did you come up with this law without taking into account this, 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 and this? And it's no use in asking the people who put up the whole video because they don't know. They have no idea. Anyway, that's my frustration in dealing with it. They want to treat you like a kindergartner, and then you go, well, oh man, you don't understand physics. I don't know. I treat like kindergartners. They try to teach me like an idiot. Is what they try to do, and then I had an idiot answer. I mean, what do you want me to say? Even the book in physics tries to give you stupid things. Just be honest. I mean, if kindergartners can figure out the rainbow, I think they can figure this out. Okay? No need for kindergartner gloves here. Just freaking say it for what it is. And if you don't understand it, don't make a video on it. I don't know. That's just my personal frustration on it. I mean, I don't use a lot of physics terms and I don't expect them to, but I expect them to understand why it's there if you want to teach it. Yeah, Einstein had a lot of things wrong. And then Heaviside was a mathematician who corrected an equation. He did not correct the underlying physics. I mean, yeah, I hope you guys understand that. Because once it went from Faraday, who did the experiments, then it went on to Maxwell, who wrote, by the way, not working with Faraday, but writing equations on the side of Faraday, and then came up with his equations based on what he thought things were doing without direct contact with Faraday. That works not very well. Sorry, that doesn't work. So then Tesla comes along and he looks at this and he says, you guys are all full of shit. All of you guys are full of shit. Because that's not the way the energy flows. And he was right. Because they're full of it. And it's because he actually watched the energy and he saw which way it flowed and said, okay, this is the way it works. So when you look back on your history, just understand it the right way. Einstein is a mathematician. He has no idea how energy works. He saw a number and he saw a positive and negative and go, I can flip them. I can flip them. They're just positive and negatives to me because they weren't defined the correct way when they did the fundamental laws, where there was a big flat sign stamped on their ass says, you can't change these two. You know what I mean? It's frustrating. I mean, I don't know how many times I run across an electrical system and it tells you the answer right away. Hey, you can't do that. Yet with math, you can. Because you're misunderstanding the labeling because they didn't put it on there right. Anyway, you'll see it. The more you get into it, the more you'll understand it. How do you make the breakthrough in physics? I mean, think about that. Just for all the people out there, if you're writing a paper based on all the same stuff that everybody else writes it on, you're not making a breakthrough in physics. Let me just tell you that. You're sitting around eating lunch and making money because it sounds pretty. The people who actually change physics are the people who go back to the fundamental nature of energy and understand it in the proper terminology and put laws on it that actually make sense. Then they're able to change it because they see an insight you didn't. Rarely is it ever going to come in math. It's going to come in the experimentation of how they do things. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. It's completely frustrating every time I look at it and every time I deal with it. So, I mean, you would think by now people start to understand, hey, If there's someone out there showing you experiments and stuff, maybe we should listen. I mean, I've converted everything, man. And I keep doing it so that I show people more stuff. Anyway, I'll stop bitching, guys. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do it. I get frustrated with it. Like I said, all I want to do is watch the stuff and be consistent in it. That's it. And if I don't, and maybe I'm trying to pick up some terminology I can use on my channel. People stop getting upset with me for saying the wrong words. You know what I mean? And I'm over here getting taught like a kindergartner. I'm going, okay, tried that word, and that word on my channel, and I've got blasted for all three of them. You got a better one? No, no, they don't. So, whatever. It is what it is. Proper terminology, my ass. You know what I mean? This wire goes here, this wire goes there, and this capacitor goes there, and this goes there, and that's how you build it. And that's where I'm sticking with. Because you know what? It's so much easier. I don't need to speak a foreign language in order to do physics. It's actually pretty simple. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to even understand it. I don't know. That's just me. Whatever. And I think for people who want to, I don't know, you want to play with magnets and think it's going to break gravity, put it on a frisbee, you have a better chance. I mean, just glue it to your frisbee. Anyway, I'm done bitching, guys. What else is going on? Nathan, old man's in the red, huh? Yeah. No, it's not that bad, guys. It just calls residents spooky action at a distance. Yeah, why? Well, if you don't know you're pulling in the environment, it looks like a spooky action at a distance. Why? Because there's no energy pulling into that damn thing yet. You know what I mean? That you can physically see, yet it's turning on and it has physical energy into it. Of course, it looks spooky at a distance. Yeah, I mean, no shit. I'm, I don't know any other way to say it. I mean, yeah, I'd probably say the same thing if I didn't understand how the laws make it work. I mean, once you understand it, yeah, hey, you're good. You know what I mean? It's like, well, now I understand why that thing has energy in it. Hey, that opens a whole new doorway of if I got the same amount of energy or higher from it, then guess what? You got entanglement. I mean, think about that. And I did this thing, and I'll tell you guys when I do the live, I took a Tesla coil and ran it at, what was it, 9 volts. Okay, just understand this. When you have about 9 volts in there, you have about milliamps. And you run a Tesla coil, and at about 3 feet, you put a secondary coil out there, and it's picking up energy higher in the value on the outside radiant, on the outside positive radiant field than it had in the initial coil. I've already beaten the number. Okay, matter of fact, I didn't just beat it in that coil. I had 3 other coils sitting next to it. And you're going, hold on, they all have energy, yet this one coil, if you put a light bulb up to it, you couldn't get something to light, 3 inches from it. So what did you understand everybody else didn't? Well, I understood I was pulling energy out of the atmosphere. I had nothing to do with anything besides the resonance. So I didn't need that much energy going in. The energy value was in the resonance itself. Once the resonance started up the other coil, the energy pulled in from the atmosphere was much stronger than the amount of energy pushing from the primary coil. Then I go, well, I go on the load, on the live, and I'll just tell you, to be very honest with you, my trigger voltage is about 6 volts on that transistor. And I can turn it down all the way to 6 volts. I have to keep it at 6 volts because that's what makes the transistor turn on. If I used a smaller one, I could probably get it down to 3 volts. It's all in the actual amplification of the frequency itself. That's where the energy is. As soon as you get to the oscilloscope and it's running across like this, and then I amplify it across there, that's where my extra energy is, right there. It's by tuning your system correctly. Yeah, that PMP Slayer Exciter it's a really good circuit. Teach you something about how things actually work. So is there entanglement in it? Yeah. Is there extra energy in it? Yeah. Is it still over unity? I don't think so. I didn't beat the whole system yet. I got more energy in it than, what I put into it, but I don't know if that's over Unity. That's not my department. I, it's just energy to me. It's just useful ways to do it. And then we'll turn around and do it again and create more and more and more and just keep creating energy and keep using it. So I shouldn't say create energy. I'm pulling energy in is what I'm doing. Anyway. All right, guys. That's enough of me bitching about things and other things like that. Hey, hopefully you guys all learned something today, man. I know I didn't take a lot of chat questions and stuff like that. Hopefully everybody had a good time listening and learning. You'll see a lot of the examples of everything on my channel. I continue to put new stuff out, so I'm working on some cool projects right now, and hopefully they'll be done soon. And we'll start to bring some of these experiments a little bit further. I know we did the channel for the 3D print stuff. I'm keep working on that. Keep working on the geometry channel. Sorry. And then on this channel, we're going to start motors soon. So we have a pulse motor. We have a Bedini motor. We also have Mike's Renegade that we're going to build. So all three of those are coming in. Just waiting on a little bit of coil wire for those since we have to wrap the coils a certain way. Other than that, man, most of the stuff's already built and put to the side and videoed. So we're going to be putting those things out on the channel here on the main channel. So we'll have some more stuff to watch. I'll continue the big Tesla coil, that 3-foot one, man. We'll keep my hands away from it this time. And we'll run the ZVS on it and see if it works. And then we'll go on from there and see what we need to do. So we got a lot of cool things ahead, man. So I just want to say thank you to everybody in the chat, man. It's been awesome today. Sorry for not going through the chat a lot, but had a lot of stuff to just kind of get off my chest and talk about some things that we need to change, and hopefully we can start turning the corner on this stuff. With that said, I want to thank everybody and have yourself a great day.
The old man built. The old man built. The old man built. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds.